And for the last challenge, this is objective 22, missile diversion. It is a pretty tough one, and this is one of the challenges where I really had to use an AI-aided approach. The other one was the access control system for the spacebar to get through the door lock. And this other one does not really require AI tools, but there's one point where you need to write some very simple Java code, and I just had ChatGPT to write it. So this was an ideal use case for that. I'll mention some of the other things that I forgot to mention in previous challenges. So I try to sometimes ask questions from ChatGPT. Certain cases it worked out okay, in other cases not so well. This was actually the case with this this challenge too. I already did the setup, so let me show you what I already have running. So because this challenge is a direct continuation of the previous one, I did the setup part, but I restarted the whole thing. One thing I forgot to mention about the Gator application, or Gate XOR, is the time. So you have 4 hours of time for the backend. After that, it's going to be shut down no matter what you do. If you're not interacting with it after a couple hours, it will shut down, but I think it stays up now for 4 hours if you even just leave it there. But just keep in mind that you have to start a challenge and you have to work on that challenge, because afterwards, after 4 hours, the backend will be gone and you have to start it again. You have to copy the configuration details again. So you cannot use the previous WireGuard configuration if you spent more than 4 hours between the two challenges, or if you collapsed the previous backend. So you can kind of force collapse the backend infrastructure, and then you can spin it up again with time travel. So I already have this one running. I also have my client container running. I installed a couple of things, but I wanted to start with a clean container, so I rebuilt the container quickly, and I verified that my WireGuard is up and running. I also have VNC connected. I had the black screen issue, but I just rebuilt the container and now it works. I do have Wireshark running. This is me pinging the backend system, and I have my notes here. We're going to instead of the camera application, we're going to use the missile launcher application for this challenge. So that's the setup. If you haven't watched the previous video, please check at the beginning how to set these things up. I'm not going to repeat it here again. It's the same process. You use the same tools, the same container, same backend, same everything. So you can leave the Gator interface here once you took note of your settings, and you can always go back and check the status. Like this will tell you how many hours you have left, and if the status is green, that means the backend is healthy and you should be good to go. Now, after finishing the challenge, I intentionally didn't talk to Wombly because he is going to give us a hint for this 5 out of 5 difficulty challenge. So let's go and talk to Wobbly here real quick. He's going to brag that Jack Frost is behind all these sinister plans here to ruin Christmas for everyone and defeat Santa. And he is wondering if he had the admin tools left open. Or maybe I did talk after the previous challenge. So we should have one hint here. Misconfiguration. Let me just check real quick what should be the always lock your computer is what we should have. Oops, that's not it. Always lock your computer. Okay, so the terminal name is displayed here, but that's that's the only hint that we're getting, and I think it's a little bit misleading. So the hint mentions admin tools. We're not really looking for an admin interface, but a different interface in the satellite control system. I guess I talked to Wombly in the previous challenge then. And a couple Easter eggs. So we already talked about the poster. After completing the camera access, if you look at this space door thingy, you will notice that instead of the empty satellite, we now see Jack Frost from previous year. When he was the previous year, we didn't have Jack. I think we had him in 2021. Anyway, so he's a little troll, and he's, well, trolling with us right now in the shape of trying to launch a missile on the island. So that's pretty bad. He's targeting planet Earth with that missile, and we need to prevent him from succeeding. I'm not gonna go outside, but if you go to the telescope outside and check the terminal, I already have the telescope here pre-saved, so you can just go directly to the challenge side. And if you go now, zoom on the satellite, you can see that it changed. I think this is one of the Easter eggs. So you can see Jack having an evil smile on his face, and that's the starting point for this next challenge. So the only hint is admin tools is what we have to look for. And as I mentioned, it's probably not a really great hint, because what we're looking for is really just a different interface. So let's go back to our container. I'm going to minimize these if I'm able to. I'm going back to the satellite control tool, and we had the supervisor directory, fetch the info, connect to this provider. And we used the camera application in the previous challenge, but there's also a missile targeting system. This interface will be very, very useful. So let's run the app. And as we run the app, just like in the previous case, we get this new URI that is using the mul TCP. And I was wondering if we do have something like mul TCP. I don't think we have anything like that as a dissector, so it will be interesting to maybe write some tools on mul TCP. Just verifying if we have maybe a dissector here that we can change to. Doesn't look like it. Which is pretty much a first for me with Wireshark. Anyways, I'm just running Wireshark here in the back because I want to show something later, at least like the lack of it. But we just see the mul TCP traffic, so we're talking to the backend with this application. We can connect to this other provider here. Let's fetch the info. And we see here some parameters, action is available, some sort of action. Let's connect to it and explore this interface. So I couldn't really figure out what is this COM archive manager for. The event service is something that you can populate by fetching. Oh no, that's a different interface actually. So here you can grab additional like debugging information. Not this one. I can't remember. Doesn't matter. So it's not really useful for us. But I can give it a try. Like get all. Yeah, I think it's just getting the like backend messages here. Okay, yeah. So I remember correctly, and you can periodically fetch this one. But the interesting part, of course, is the parameters that we can create. There's a pointing mode that looks interesting. I'm going to enable the generation of these. so we can monitor them a little bit. And one place that is going to be very important for us again is the app launch service here, because we do have here debug messages coming in. And let's see the published parameter values. So debug is the only action that we can do here. If we submit the action and check the parameters, I'm going to wait a couple of seconds here. Let me see a version MariaDB coming back. So MariaDB is a flavor of MySQL basically. I kind of suspect that that's the backend at this point that we're talking to. And we can also see the debug output. And this version function looks a lot like the MySQL version call. So I kind of suspect that this debug is executing SQL in the back. Now at this point, I can do multiple things here. What I did, let me just get to my notes here and see what was the first thing. Yeah, so what I did at this point is I decided to take a look at the client-side code. And this was just an intuition. You might have a different intuition here. I will talk about that one as well. But I went to the client container assets and I was hoping that I might be able to find something related to missile control. And sure enough, there is missile targeting system. So this is a jar file. You can use something like the Java decompiler. So that's JD GUI, which you can just download, and it's a standalone little jar file that you can run. And if you browse through this code, eventually you will see SQL debug and get mode. Now SQL debug and get mode at the very beginning have these nice connection strings here, which seemingly are going for the same kind of like direction here. So there's missile targeting system as a database name. This is MariaDB here, looking good so far. And we have targeter and what seems to be the password for this user. Now this is for client side and I do not find anything here in the traffic that is my SQL. So it is going out on a limb to assume that these are the database credentials for the backend system as well, because we're not directly talking to the database with our client application. It's the backend system that is talking to it, but maybe they just use some of the code that we see here on the backend, and we might be able to, you know, use these credentials and connect to that system. So first order of business at this point is to grab mmap. Now mmap is not installed in the container. So if you try to do mmap, command is not found. I'm just going to install it real quick. And the other thing we need to install is going to be a MariaDB client. I'm going this direction because it worked, so I know it works, and these are actually the credentials, and we can directly connect to the backend database. So I'm just doing a quick scan here to see if the database port is open, which is open. So I can also install the MariaDB client. And then we will try to use those credentials to connect to MariaDB. Now, while this is searching, I can ask ChatGPT or I can consult my MariaDB data, manual rather, to see how we can connect to MariaDB. So these are the username and password combinations that we need to provide, and using this connection string, I can put together a command that looks something like this. Okay, so we're going to use the MariaDB client, and it works. So this is one way to talk to the backend database, and this is part of the goal. Now, this is not the only way. to approach this. I think this is the most convenient one because I can just run database queries against the database. However, if you realize that you want to, for example, use this debug output and give it a try to find a vulnerability, a different vulnerability, one obvious thing here is, instead of this empty string going in there, why don't we try to finish the previous command and then send in something like show databases. And I realized while I was preparing for the demo that I can actually copy into the VNC session. Now the output is something that I won't be able to easily see here. I wonder if in the debug I can see it. It's not going to be the entirety of the results anyways. So there's a better place for that. And this is the debug portion. I'm not sure if you can see it. I won't be able to zoom in, but we do have the same information returned here. So SQL injection is possible. So without the database credentials, even if you have different DB credentials for the backend, and the backend application and the backend database, you can still run SQL commands. Okay, it was just a write SQL command, so I only see the beginning, which is the version one. But I'm going to use here this interface because it's a lot more convenient. So databases, we only have information schema and the missile targeting system. That's easy. We don't need to explore further databases because we want to mess around with a missile. Under show tables, we have messaging, pointing mode to string, satellite query, and target coordinates. Now let's explore these a little bit. So messaging has 3 columns: message type, message data, and these ones not really something that I would like to mess around with launch codes. So pointing mode was a lot more interesting. This one seems to be just an integer. Yeah, and currently the value set is 0. Now luckily there's another table here with pointing mode string, and this tells us that if it's set to 0, which is the current case, then it's earth pointing mode. You can also see this here on the database side, or sorry, the backend application side. And we also and check here the type of columns that we have. So at this point, I think it should be enough to go and just update this pointing mode to a 1. And I couldn't really figure out a way how to try to flip this one here. The parameter service is just getting the values. I think there should be a way to set the value here, but I'm not really sure. So I tried things like set the row value to a 0 and submit it, but it doesn't do anything here. So it does not run the update. I'm not really sure. I think it's because you can really just use the action service. I will try to update this table a bit later, and I will show you why it will not work. The other table that we saw was satellite query. So just as a reminder, we had messaging pointing mode. There's also satellite query. Now this will be an interesting one because we see here some Java code, and that's seemingly the only thing in this database. But it looks like that it's actually some serialized data in there. And this is the third column. So looking at let me just scroll down here in my notes and check the columns here. So it seems like that the results column here contains this Java code. I'm gonna grab this Java code so we can take a closer look at it. Let me set the language here to Java. Alrighty. So this satellite query file folder utility is a serializable class, which kind of explains why we have this function stored here as a serialized object. So this is a table that stores serialized Java classes. apparently. And this class is a class that allows you to either run a database query or to fetch files in a directory. Now, for us, the goal would be to just update the table. So this table might or might not be interesting for our case. And then the last thing that we have here is target coordinates. I mean, this sounds a little bit tricky to manipulate, but it could work. So maybe we can just change these coordinates instead. But I would say we should start with the update for the pointing mode table. So before doing this, actually, let's just go back and get pointing mode and pointing mode string. So what I want to do is I want to update the pointing mode in ID 1 and flip this 1 to a 1, right? And we should be good to go. The problem is that we're denied to perform this action. And if you check your grants with the targeter user that we were able to use, then what we have here, the password hash, that's not really interesting. And we can only do selects on pointing mode. We are not able to update this. However, we do have inside rights on the missile targeting system satellite query table. So that looks interesting. And this is the path forward, actually. You can try to run this update as a SQL injection on the backend, because you might say like, okay, cool, but maybe this portion of the backend uses a different account that has the sufficient permissions. So I'm just going to paste in here. I'll show you. I'm going to paste here an update. So to inject commands here, I'm going to finish the previous query because my assumption is there's a query there. I can also just like put there some garbage and then it will generate an error. So well, we can try to do that first. So we can demonstrate that this will generate some nice Java exception. Hopefully. No, this was just running it again. Okay, so I need to really get to some error condition here. I wonder if this one will work. Yeah, all right. So here, debug action query select version, semicolon, test, semicolon, space, dash, dash, space. So we know that it just runs this select. That means I can do a SQL injection by just finishing this with semicolon, and then I can put whatever query I want to execute here. At least that's the assumption. And it worked well with the select statements. If I try this, I get the same denied message here. So we won't be able to, yeah, denied to user target error for the update. So this is not a way to go. And this again is going to be kind of a leap of faith here for the satellite query. So our assumption is that these stored Java serialized classes might be executed by something, and I couldn't really figure out a way to validate this. So you just kind of have to go with this assumption. It's a pretty good one because I haven't seen any other path forward. Now, after finishing this, I wanted to figure out how you can get this information, and I started reading the Discord of this challenge. The Discord channels are available for the challenges where you can ask people for help. And I started reading what others are talking about, and I decided I might ask others how they figured this one out. But then I saw a message from one of the creators of this challenge, and they pasted in a command that is executed periodically, and it just runs a Java class that goes to the database. And a Java code rather, and it goes to the database and just runs these Java serialized objects in the table. At least I assume that's what that command does. I just saw the Java command basically. But in the Java command, we did have JSON, and there was also the MariaDB database driver jar file, which initially I started using because I wanted to just have Java code that directly talks to the database. It's a little bit more cumbersome than what you actually need to do. So I constantly had problems with the serialized object, and I decided to take a simplified route. It should work. So I was able to write Java code that would insert into this database, but the format was off. So I decided to scratch that one, and I did the following thing. At this point, we need to write some sort of Java code here, and then we need to insert this as a serialized object into this database table. Now, this class is probably there for a reason, and what I decided to do at this point is go to ChatGPT. Now, in previous challenges, like for example, the voice synthesizers, I asked ChatGPT if there's a free tool available. It gave me a couple of things. I asked about hashcat and what is the right ID for ASREP Kerberos hashes. We used it for the Linux one, but here I really used it in a way that I think a lot of folks are using it. So I wanted to ask first ChatGPT to take the Java class and simplify it to me to get rid of the part that reads files. I wanted to simplify the part where it checks if it's an update statement or a different statement, and just have an update statement on the table. And it does a decent job getting rid of the things here initially, but I wasn't sure what should be the class definition, what should be the class format. So I wanted to preserve the name, and I wasn't to preserve the definition of the class, just have a different code that does nothing basically. And it does something, but I wasn't super happy with this part. So I just did it on my own. And this is what I ended up with. So this is a very simplified version of this class. Now I couldn't bother downloading the jar file for JSON and then use that one as well while I'm compiling. So I just commented out that section. I set these variables so that they're always true, preserving the definition of the class and its methods. I'm not sure this is needed. After completing the challenge, I kind of suspect that it doesn't matter how you call your class. But anyway, so this is just running this update statement. Otherwise, the structure is the same as the previous one. So I haven't tried it with another code because I spent almost like an entire day figuring out this challenge. So I was just happy that I take the original class and I mess around with it, and I managed to have something that was working. So this is half ChatGPT and half me, mostly me. However, the part where it was really useful is when I just asked ChatGPT to write me a serialized class. I'm not sure what was the issue with this one. Do it without using, yeah, okay. So I asked ChatGPT to write a Java class for me that takes this class. This is my own little class that I modified and then showed you just previously. And I asked ChatGPT to write me a class that would serialize this and then convert it into a hex string. Now, I chose hex string because I wanted to make sure that this works also with the SQL injection, and I wasn't sure if they check on the interface the length. You can go with base64. I haven't tried base64. Should work just as well if there are no size limitations. The advantage of hex compared to base64, it's shorter. So base64 will have an approximately 33% increase on the size of the information because the way how base64 works. So you're converting 1 byte values into like symbols of 6 bits basically. So you will have approximately 33% size increase if Claude Shannon was right, and I think he was. So this is just coding theory 101. So I went with hex instead. base64 should work. I think, haven't tried it. If you did the challenge with base64, let me know. I'm kind of guessing that it should work with it. So anyways, we are having these two functions here, and the problem was that, again, I was not really fancying the idea of using this class because it's not available by default. So I just told ChatGPT, no, do it without using this. And then he wrote me the perfect code for this task. So very, very nice. And I just took the whole thing as is. So this is this second class here, and verbatim, it just works out of the, almost verbatim works out of the box. Here, I'm not really sure why it matters what I'm passing on, but it did matter. So this will not work if you have just random string here, but this class should execute just without relying on whatever the string is. But anyway, so I put there an update statement. I don't know if they do any sort of validation on it or what was the reason, but so this is just taking this class here, and then we serialize it into bytecode, convert it into a hex string, and then print the output as a hex string. So let me show you what you can do with the two Java classes. I already have them here in my VM. Now, one thing that you probably want to pay attention to is the Java version. And I, again, was guessing what could be potentially the Java version executing this, but we do have here, let me just exit here from a sec, the container. And in the container, this is the Java version. So it's using OpenJDK 11. So I installed on my system the same version here. Let me just for comparison. So we are on the same version, same build even. So I was kind of confident at this point because initially I tried it with 17 and obviously it didn't work. So I didn't guess it, but I was very confident that if I use the same version, it should be good. And it was. So don't be like me, don't try to use OpenJDK 17, it will not work. So I'm going to compile this Java class here. And once I compile that, I'm gonna end up with two, let me just probably do it like this, two class files. And if I run serialization to hex, it will just give me this hex value. So this is the serialized satellite query file folder utility, but not the original one. It's my modified one. I didn't know that you can do just random breakpoints here. So the last thing is to put this one into an insert statement. And I'm just going to show you the statement. So this is the output, and I'm just placing it into insert into satellite query. I'm also going to just insert a null for the results. This is automatically populated. And then I'm unhexing all this. So it's the serialized Java bytecode that is being inserted in the table, just like we saw that, not here, but over here. So I'm going back and I'm reconnecting from the container to the MariaDB, and I'm going to execute this query. So this update statement sets the pointing value, sorry, the pointing mode, numerical mode value to 1. That should be sun point mode, so targeting the sun. And I believe once this is done, the challenge is just automatically solved. So they're checking this value periodically. We can also check this value under the satellite. So this should change from Earth point mode to sun point mode when I execute this command. You can see the update. We can also query, of course, the satellite query table. There we go, sun point mode. We see that this was inserted in, and the SQL update completed. And we have the, I think a bit of an issue here with the narrative. I will show you how you can fix this one potentially, but we do have our achievement, meaning that this challenge is completed. Now, a couple things about this. You can do the same thing, of course, in the GUI tool. If you go to Action Service Debug, you can do an insert. I'm going to do a different insert this time. And then we're going to set it back because we don't want to, you know, we don't want to mess around here. But if I insert this one, which is updating this value to back to 0, and oh yeah, I want to use the GUI here. I can just do submit action, and I can leverage the SQL injection in this case. And if I go back here, it's now back to Earth point mode. Now this doesn't change back the scenario, but you can manipulate the SQL database through the debug action service as well. So you don't need database credentials. I think it's just more convenient to do it this way. Let's flip it back to some point mode because we want to complete the whole thing properly. We don't want to target back Earth. Now, when you do this, I believe Wombly will be very upset. I had no idea. Okay, so yeah, he cannot believe what happened, and if we want to see what's happening, we need to click on this space door here. And this is a replay, so this is what happened. We have Jack here in the satellite. Launching the target, targeting Geese Islands. But we already reset it to sun point mode, and the trajectory now intersects with the satellite's path. So he has to launch an escape pod, lands in Geese Islands, and the missile goes straight to the sun. That's it. I don't think there's any like sound effects underneath, but that's almost the end of the story. But he crash landed on Geese Island. So the last thing to go last thing to do rather is to go to the lobby area. I think this door is supposed to teleport you there, but it doesn't, because I remember someone saying that I need to just click on this and it teleports me, one of the characters, but it doesn't. Not a problem, we can just go to the lobby. So this is the resort lobby on Rudolph's Rest Resort. That's the reason why you want to go there when you do the challenges, because then you can just teleport here. And now we see the escape pod and Jack Frost crash landing. We have all the geese here around us. There's Santa. Now, to get the last narrative, one trick that I discovered is if you enter here in the Net Wars room, I'm not sure if you need to talk to this character here, but you do have this elf running Net Wars for the other elves. And then, yeah, it unlocks this one before the last piece of the narrative. So if you have this issue, I think it's a little bit buggy, but that's the way to unlock that part. I'm not sure if you need to talk to the elf in the Net Wars room, but hey, Net Wars is cool, so check it out. And we can talk to Jack at this point. He's going to explain that it was a perfect plan, convincing Santa to come to these islands, and then having one of the elves helping him. Santa had no clue. We have two trolls next to him. This is not an invasion. He just came from Planet Troll, and they are going to take Jack Frost and bring him to justice. You can also talk to Santa here, who's going to thank us for helping and thank us that we once again saved Christmas, and then roll credits. So this was the end. We have the complete narrative here. There we go. We have all the destinations, all the objectives completed. and we have our achievement listed here as well. So this was, I think, a really cool little challenge. Took a lot of trial and error for me to figure out what is the path forward, but especially with the Java part. But this was the path. So as I present, it seems easy. It's really not. So like I said, I did a lot of trial with just Java code talking to the backend part directly, and it did not work really well. So this is really, I think, the easiest, the nicest and cleanest path to move on. I'm going to have one more video after this. I'm not sure when I'm going to be able to record it. Probably I will do it today because I want to go through the bonus challenge of phishing, an automated phishing tool that I created. And then I'm also going to go through some of the Easter eggs, just summarizing them, show you briefly what the boat racing bonus is about. That's not really a challenge that is listed here, but I think it's interesting to check that one out. And that's the end of the end credits. I think I managed to not to talk to one of the trolls here because Santa is in the way. Yeah, he's also just explaining that Jack Frost is now in big trouble because the deal was that he leaves Earth. This was 2 years ago in the last Holiday Hack Challenge, and he didn't. Now, if you forgot to pick up your decoration for your sails, you still have a chance to talk to all the geese here. So you have all the island geese lined up here, and you can click on them to get the decoration, but it's an Easter egg. That's it for this challenge. So in conclusion, this year's Holiday Hack Challenge had 22 different objectives, plus there's a bonus one, which is a really fun one. So you should check that one out as well. That's going to be the next video. And I think the more complex challenges were the ones that I enjoyed the most. The Game Boy ones, I wasn't a big fan of the idea to mess around with Game Boy and emulators, but it ended up being one of my favorites. The complex ones, obviously, I enjoyed a little bit more because they taught you a lot of cool concepts and you had to think real hard. Some of them I spent almost a day. On this last one, I spent an entire day. I went way over time and I wasn't able to create these videos on time. I finished before the deadline with all the challenges, but I couldn't record all the videos. I think I got like half of the videos, and I'm just completing this actually on Monday. I totally underestimated this year's challenges. The volume of the challenges was significantly more than, for example, the previous year. I think previous year I managed to finish all the challenges in 2 days, maybe 2.5 days tops. And this year I think I spent altogether 6 days, including the bonus challenge, which was almost a day to mess around with until I found the solution that was the easiest path for me. So recording just 22 videos, and there's a 23rd one coming after this, is yeah, a lot of time. I'm pretty sure people spend a ton of time on writing the write-ups and polishing them, also just playing the game. So excellent fun for everyone, a ton of things to learn from. I just as always, I recommend playing this one. Previous year's challenges going back to 3 years are available, so check those out as well. I might do later a 2020 video series, probably somewhere around like March, because I'm kind of busy. Hopefully it will be up still until March. I have the previous 2 years challenges, so if you go to the channel and check out the playlist, then you will find those videos as well. There's another write-up, and I will upload this year some additional content and produce more content on the channel. So if you want to get a notification about the new content uploaded, then subscribe to the channel and make sure that you have the notifications enabled. If you like the videos, of course, hit on the like button. If you dislike it, then click on the dislike button. And we still have one more video to go, so if you're interested in the bonus challenge, and how to do automated fishing, some of the Easter eggs and the boat race challenge, then come with me into the next video.